and we're at
Let's do
7
it.
o'clock. So, hit the button. All right. Yeah, we're good, and we're
We
intro.
are.
Good. Now to you. This is Daryl as a service, and
Hello, I'm Daniel,
Mr.
the
Waving
sidekick.
Daniel. Hey, you know something I've been missing lately with our shows is you usually had some kind of catchphrase about
Oh, yeah.
Nashville, the home of. And look,
Yes.
I've got to say I'm disappointed.
Oh man, I'm sorry. I don't know. Maybe someone can go back and look at the other episodes and tell us when I stopped that. I think it was just we got too busy. And
Or maybe
it
nothing's
got
happening in Nashville. Yeah, right.
right. We had an inauguration this past weekend.
Okay.
The new governor got, and it was funny. They were practicing the flyover with
Mm.
a C-17, which is a very large Air Force propeller
Hmm.
plane, and it was doing low flyovers over the capital, over Nashville, and over the area where the inauguration was going to happen, doing practice, and people were freaking out and like, "Oh, you should tell us what's going on," and blah blah. And anyway, so maybe home of the people freaking out about the low flying C-17
Yeah.
plane, but anyway, it's
Did you
pretty
see the
fun.
C-17? Yeah. Well, yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
I think
Um,
everybody saw it and heard it. It's a loud plane.
Yeah, I
So,
bet. Oh, yeah, I'd
yep.
be interested to hear about what the tradition is around organising flyovers for inaugurations.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, we do have a few things to cover off.
Yes.
And look, I've still got the message center in you might say preview mode.
Yeah.
Although when you do look at it and you're looking at it with me now, we have a slightly different navigation, which we covered off last week. And we've got some major updates, which I do want to try and highlight to that as a way of reminding you that major updates are significant. And you should be getting them within your email too. And did you get
Hmm.
any this week, Daniel?
I did. Yeah,
Yeah.
I got quite a few. So yeah, we should be. And I think, for we've talked about this in the show before of how you workflow, not workflow, but how you work, and maybe email is the way you do it. Maybe you go into the message center every Monday morning. Maybe you watch the show and you discover it right along or whatever it is. So there's ample opportunity to get those notifications. Just be careful, if you're relying on email, that you actually make sure that you get that email and it's not
Mm.
going to clutter or it's not going to spam or something, because even though it's coming from Microsoft, it still can be caught up in those filters. So make sure you're still getting those so you're keeping up to date. But
Yep, yep, definitely. And it actually highlights the backstop that is email. We do have other sorts of ways of receiving notifications via apps. Look, we don't even have a notification thing yet for the 365 admin app, do we?
yeah, we need that. I
That
think
that needs a bit of attention, doesn't it?
it does. It really
Yeah.
does.
But yeah, we've got some major updates, and we're not going to work our way through every one of them and make comments. We do want to spend some time on some specific ones because they are certainly interesting. We won't address
Yep.
the major ones first up. We'll work our way from the bottom of the list as we usually do.
Yep.
Now, new services or new app. New services or new app. What are we talking about here? Productivity insights in Outlook powered by My Analytics. Is it new, Daniel?
Newish. I mean, it's new in that rolling it out for the organizations, and then we have it's bringing it to a broader audience, I guess I should say. I
Mm-hmm.
think because before we've had My Analytics, we've been talking about it. It's been solely for those E5 customers and those that are getting the first release, the targeted release, and so. But now we're talking about bringing it to a broader audience, right? And having the this power, this information at everyone's fingertips, not just those that have a higher license.
Yeah. Yeah, just refreshing too. My Analytics, if you recall, it's often called the Fitbit for the organization. Do you use a Fitbit? Well, maybe, and I think this is one of the points that I'll make shortly. But it will give you some suggestions, some insights as now they're being reframed as to how you're working, who you're connecting with, and really the purpose is to try and focus you back on things that are important to you, trying to get time back if you're attending meetings that really are not that productive, and getting you to review things like this. Now, coming back to Fitbits, exercise, measuring what we do you have a watch that does something like that, Daniel?
I do. I have a Fitbit.
Okay. Do you wear it all the time or just while you exercise?
I generally wear it as a watch. I do not. I don't wear it all the time. There's Fitbit. Anyway, there's periods of time where I'll wear it all the time, including sleeping and all, just from until it needs to recharge, and then I'll charge it.
Yeah.
But then there's also times where I'll need to recharge it and I'll put it on the charger as it is now and not wear it for 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
So it is, but I do wear it generally. Yes.
Yeah, and my fitness component is built into the Apple Watch, so I do wear that all the time. So there's something to think about there, that it's either always measuring or it's not. How often do you look at the information and think about what you do and make some decisions, or even get maybe I should have gone for some walk sometime?
That's the key. So, and I know Apple does this as well. Fitbit, will tell me that, if you set a target, it will, and I think it does it by default, sets a target. And, if you haven't taken as many steps per hour, it'll, 10 minutes to the hour, it'll say, hey, you need to get up and start moving. But then, it does other measurements, things like how you're sleeping and exercise throughout the day and all of that. So you got to set your targets before before it'll prompt you, before if you're making progress. But then if you want a kind of holistic approach of looking at how things are going, you have to, go in and look at those, in the app. So I think this does apply. As we're talking about this My Analytics of you have to set your goals, numbers. And when I talk about dashboards and reports in Power BI, for instance, when I do a talk, I remind people you got to know your destination before you start your journey. And if you don't know your goals, if you don't have goals, then having these numbers, it's great. My Analytics is going to give me all these numbers and tell me what's going on. But if you don't understand what your goals are and how those apply, then what's the good of having the numbers?
Yeah. Now there's another aspect too, that like the Fitbit and other fit kind of watches. My Analytics, it's not in this announcement, but they have this concept of nudges, which are a little like the little reminders to say you should be standing, you should go for a walk, you should close your rings, which in this
Apple,
Southern Hemisphere, closing your rings can mean something different. Sorry, people. But with My Analytics, similar sort of thing. If you're not looking at the data and you're not using that in your planning, then it's not going to be that useful. It is going to be just another thing. Now you're going to get your reminders too, and a bit of information, a summary in email. But where it will be, I've got this observation. How do you have Outlook set up when you're trying to view and read your email? But there's all sorts of different ways to set it up. Views, panels, menus, and things. Tell me about that.
The way I have it set up is I have the preview on the side, and it has, it gives me the subject, but that also gives me, the first little blurb of, the part of the first sentence, and then I have the preview. So when I select it, I see the message.
Yep. Preview pane and message.
Yep.
What about the folder navigation? Is that expanded or minimized?
It is minimized except for the top ones, right? You can have top ones and they'll show
folders.
Yep.
What about the ribbon menu? Is that expanded or collapsed?
Expanded.
Okay. And do you have
I
any
feel like you're
other?
being invasive with these questions.
No, no,
Like,
no, no. Okay, so this is not a Vogue magazine thing where I come out and talk about Daniel's personality based on how he
based
sets up
on
his
how you
outlook.
have Outlook set up, this is who you
Categories. Do you
are.
use colors and categories? No. No. What I'm getting at is that there's all these different ways to view your Outlook, and when you go through, let's say, a mail migration, a lot of people watching this will understand too that there are so many different ways that people personalize Outlook to get work done.
Yep.
I guess my last question is: do you have any add-ins within Outlook that you use?
Yep, I do.
Like what is it?
Like
Find Time,
Find Time.
for
I use,
example.
yep,
Yep.
Find Time, and then there's Boomerang, and yep.
Yep, lots like that. Right, so my Analytics is going to be turned on by default when it arrives, and then not long after that, I think you got about a month, you will be able to you'll see an add-in appear in Outlook. And that add-in will be a panel down the right-hand side beside your preview pane if you have it turned on.
Right.
If you just see that message list, it'll sit there.
Yep.
What I'm getting at with all those questions is the lovely place where we get all our work done if we are in, a lot of us do use email a lot, and we're planning calendars and tasks and all sorts of stuff like that, is becoming cluttered. And
Yep,
this
it
is where
is.
people, they will close My Analytics because it's just another thing along the side. But if you like your watch, if you're not wearing it, you're not going to see those nudges and those things and those suggestions that are going to prompt you towards more focused work.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest one of the big issues here is that a lot of people will close it, especially if they don't know about it. So, for hopefully those that are watching this show, that this is the key here is you do need to work with your users to let them know this is coming. And if it's something that your organization wants to promote or at least let happen organically, let people know about it. Don't let people discover it. And just like you're saying, it's yet another thing. You've messed up my screen to where I was doing my work, so I'm going to close this because I want my screen back, right? And how Outlook's set up. So I think just that is a huge note is to prepare your users. And I think I just had a conversation with a client last week about My Analytics, and they are, there was some trepidation about this tool that seems a little bit invasive on how I manage my time, right? And how it's keeping track of me, and so I think this is something we have to work through with our users. If your organization is one that is embracing a lot of social tools, embracing a lot of information and over the organization, trying to track how and improve the processes and such, then this I think would be a wonderful tool, and your users will jump on. If your organization is more closed and do not share that information with each other or whatever, then this tool may not be received well. And I think sometimes we also get in this mentality where we talk about tools and we say we profile organizations. While every organization does have a profile, departments do too, and teams do too, and individuals, right? So it's not going to, you can't look at an organization and say, oh, that organization, everyone's going to want it, right? But so I think we just need to do a good job of communicating to our users that this is coming and this is why it's used.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's a comparison too, and it's no surprise that when you go to My Analytics, it is associated with Delve in a sense too. That's where you go to your Delve profile page and you can see a connection there to My Analytics. Something to iron out there, and I picked this up when you were talking earlier. When people see this and they don't know anything about it, they think, like you say, oh, you're measuring me. Well, who can see this data?
Right.
Can my manager see this data? And when we're bringing in concerns from Europe and GDPR and various things around that, it does, like Delve, make people think, oh, I can see this, so can others. But one point to make is My Analytics is what you see about you, and it's not shared with anyone else. There is another layer which with the E5, you can use workplace analytics, and that means that there is aggregated data that you can see across your teams and across your organization, which
Right.
gives you views of trends of how people are working. But
See,
it's not down to that individual level.
and I think that's the part of the communication that needs to happen from an
Mm.
organization is we can't see how you, uh, Joe or Sue, are working. Like we're not seeing that detailed in your name next to the you did this, you did this, you did this. And I think the organization needs to communicate. This is what we're seeing. This
Mm.
is the information that's available, so that people get comfortable with that. Until you do that, people are going to think so. There's someone's job is sitting there tracking what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know that's what one thing that's going to happen. So you just need to communicate with your users, what they get out of it, right? What do I get out of this? Why would I want to use this and not close this window? And then what is the organization getting out of it, and show them so that they don't think that, again, this is Big Brother, Big Sister, whatever, tracking them. So
Hmm. Yeah, no, I think we're overdue for one of these, a breakout little video, which we might sort of dive
yeah,
into a bit on My Analytics and where that fits in. But just finishing off about this notification or this message in the message center, if you do want to have some control over who is seeing this, maybe you want to release this in your own time when this is turned on by default. It is a case of turning the license off at the individual level. It's not a service switch
yeah.
where you say it's off for the org. You have to remove the license from each individual, and they provide a PowerShell way to do that.
PowerShell's your friend here. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the key. I don't like this that
Mm,
it's a per user turn off. It would be great to have a master kill switch until for organizations so that they can prepare for this,
yeah.
and communicate like we've just been talking about. I think there's a lot of communication that needs to happen here. So I don't like that, but PowerShell's your friend here. You're going to have to use that.
Yeah. Yeah. Just a quick salute to one of the major updates. It's kind of funny. It's a major update. General availability has started, which is in conflict with actually the title of the
Yes.
notice. Take a close look at this. It says it's actually retiring the Skype for Business Call Analytics preview experience.
Right.
General availability has started, but rather preview, which isn't general availability, is finishing. Now that's because they have a new and improved analytics center, which encompasses Skype for Business Online, but also Teams, and then of course that transition to Teams will be where it's all happening.
Right.
So yeah, just interesting to see the hot mess that message was.
Hot mess.
Well, come on
Okay.
now, let's be honest.
All right.
We did talk about this one last week. So this is really more to my tenant that hey, Microsoft Stream mobile app is available in Android and iOS. So
Yep.
good to get that reminder, but we've covered that one off.
Mhm.
Now OneDrive is getting
Yes.
some flow powers. Did you say you were in a conversation this week with someone about that?
No.
No, just some
But
observations and thoughts.
yeah, no, the thoughts, my thoughts around this, it is pretty, this is a big one in that, we've had workflow via Flow in SharePoint as well as others, right? Other applications.
Mm,
But this is bringing that productivity, it's bringing this personal productivity, this personal workflow to OneDrive. And I think a lot of people have been doing personal workflow because Flow is personal. It is tied to your account. When you create a workflow, it is yours. But a lot of people, of course, have been using it for organization-wide workflow, right? Approvals, gathering feedback, page approval, all of that, right? But this is bringing that to what is natively personal, which is OneDrive for Business. It is your personal space to do collaboration with others, but also work on your documents. And so having Flow be part of that personal experience, it makes it even more a personal workflow. And I think it's kind of a big deal, especially for organizations. And it's another side of this is especially for organizations that have not rolled out OneDrive. Is another reason why you might want to is we've been able to hook into OneDrive, but having that connection, bringing that service in again, it's just it's another thing, another benefit that you need to be looking at. So if you don't have OneDrive rolled out, if you're working through that, there's another benefit, but then it's also another thing you have to look at of, okay, we've gone through a list of, trying to get approvals for OneDrive to be rolled out. Then, okay, now we have this new capability of workflow. How does that tie into it? Do we need to consider this? Do we need to bring in security to talk about? I mean, so compliance. So there's some other things to be considered with this as well. So it'd be interesting to hear what people think about, this and how it has implications on their OneDrive rollout. So,
yeah. Now, it has been a capability within the SharePoint document libraries and lists, as you've said, that came in last year. So I guess it was inevitable that it was going to come to another type of library, which is your own personal library.
Well, and they had announced that it was coming. Yep. So.
And the two flows that are being released this time as an initial launch are a approval workflow and something that turns a file to a PDF, and then you can send that off.
Yep.
I guess I haven't had as much experience widely with this scenario, but what I try to get my head around is why you would be doing workflows and approvals from within a OneDrive rather than a SharePoint document library. Is that a real scenario that some orgs will use? Do they just sometimes ignore using a team site and everyone works out of the mesh of OneDrives that we all connect to?
Well, I think there are some scenarios, and remember, we have been telling people, they've been asking us what to use when, and what's been our answer, Daryl? Our answer,
well, you mean it depends, or like
right? Well, it depends, but it's also we've been telling people use what you want, right? Yeah. It's whatever works for you, use it. So I don't think we can say that and then say, wait, you're going to collaborate on a document and you want approval on it? Well, you should be in a team site. Well, we asked you that. Where should I put my documents that I'm working? And you told me just do whatever I want. Use the tool that makes sense for you and your organization, your department, and you and your workflow. And now you're telling me you're fussing at me because I'm using OneDrive. So I think we need to be careful because there's definitely some scenarios where people are using OneDrive and they have documents, and you could think of it as an approval, but you can also think of it as a sign-off. I've been working on this proposal, and I want someone, my boss, to look at it to sign off. Where does that go? It's just it's a proposal. Should it be on the team? Well, it's my proposal. It's not my team's proposal. So should it be on team site? A team site for just me? So something like that. I think fits well there. And then the PDF one is something that, in fact, I was just having a call with another customer this past week about it. They're wanting to do some, combining and all this kind of stuff with PDFs. But, this is a scenario where you have a document and you want to have a PDF and convert it to a PDF and then send it off. So I think that's a good workflow as well. So back to your question of should it be in a team site? Maybe. But again, we're telling people use what makes sense for you. So that may make sense.
I'm sorry I didn't get the live chat all queued up so I could display it in the stream. But of course, if you're watching this live, of course, you'll see the comments right there. And they replay now within YouTube anyway. Yeah. Phil Worrell and Dan Gross have got some good comments or examples around that. Phil says that most people work independently. You can see the stats and the way that the service has been used, that people do tend to do that. OneDrive has become the new desktop where you just stick stuff because and literally because of what? Known folder move, exactly. Dean Gross is he's put up the point too that great feature of using OneDrive Mobile, that you can take pictures of your seats and scan them in, that is potentially a workflow that you can put in there to get approval there as well. Look, I think
I'll say also, Sarah Hazy just gave a great example. OneDrive is personal. So what if you have a personal development plan that you want your manager to sign off on, where are you going to put that? You keep that in OneDrive. You're not going to share that with anybody else. So
Yeah, yeah.
I think that's a good case as well.
Awesome. Thank you, community, for helping me become enlightened and
Enlightened.
reevaluating why you would have work. Now I think that back to we're starting with two workflows, starting with two flows, and I believe that there'll be room for more as they get
Yeah.
evaluated. As part of me, having a fresh look at flow and what touch points it has with OneDrive for Business, install the app or go to the site and check out how many how many flows there are that do connect to OneDrive for Business. There are so many. There's a
Yeah.
crazy amount. Even one there that will analyze your videos and index them and then drop something into a SharePoint list. I mean,
Yeah.
so that sort of stuff I believe will be coming to OneDrive for Business. Thank you again, community. Let's keep it moving along. That was a good discussion there. This alert, let's go back to the screen there with this message with the Office 365 security portal, where you can go in and you can respond to certain alerts. Let me back this up a bit. We can set up policies within our organization that will detect dodgy behavior, things that should be checked out, and those alerts are dropped into the security center. And various different people with their various different specialties and interests would like to go in and check those out. Your compliance managers, your record managers, general security admins within Office 365. This major update is for role-based access, so that you can assign a role to one of those admins, one of those people in those roles, and they will only see the messages that are of interest to their role. They don't get overwhelmed with everything else. They don't have to click a few buttons to filter out stuff like that may have been doing currently, and maybe there's some stuff that they shouldn't be seeing. So
Right.
good message, good update. Nothing really to say from a user adoption perspective. It's really about seeing and responding to bad behavior or behavior that's out of policy. Users, just do good stuff. Don't.
Yep.
Oh, actually, there's one thing that I noticed about this one. There's a default policy which makes me laugh, because one thing that triggers it off. It's a policy that and it actually links to one of our next messages too. When you delete a whole lot of stuff, then you get this alert in the message center, and admins will get this alert saying, "Oh, there's been some unusual file activity.
Yep.
Please check it out." Guess what triggers it off mostly within my organization?
The mass delete one.
Well, it kind of it will. We haven't quite got to talking about that message, but the security alert that drops into the security center is OneNote. And when some people go through and they're doing a bit of a tidy up of their notebook, we do forget that OneNote is not just one file; it's actually a collection of files and folders.
Right.
And when you go and delete a section, for example, and there's a bunch of pages in there, then it will detect it as unusual activity.
Man.
Yeah, I know. I'm not sure how they can sort of put an exception in there for that file, but that's the one that's basically the main one that appears in our organization.
Wow.
But linking it to this message, new mass delete notification is coming to SharePoint Online and OneDrive.
Yep.
You've read a bit about this, Daniel. Tell us about it.
I have, and this is one of those. I think people get worried about. We've been worried about this ever since, with file shares, right? You have files that are out there for everyone to consume, and what happens if you get a disgruntled employee, or you get someone who just doesn't know what they're doing and they go out and delete them all, right? Now you don't have those files. And SharePoint, as well as you can have other ways to do this in file shares, to having backups and such, to where you can restore files. SharePoint and OneDrive, we have recycle bins, we can get those back. But it's just trying to figure out, and I think for the most part, this is more about, let's catch people doing bad things, and maybe they don't even know they're doing bad things, right?
Unintentional.
Yeah, and so it's more about um, the integrity of the information, but also about helping people understand what's going on and correcting bad behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And then also it could be about people trying to get rid of stuff as they walk out the door.
Yeah.
But so that I think it's a great update. I mean, a great thing. Now, the one thing that I saw over the weekend, and one of our regarding 365 cohorts, and she's in the chat room right now, Joanne Klein brought this up, was when you move files. So there's a move send to file. You can move a file from a SharePoint library to another one. To another site. Well, what it actually does is it copies that file over and then it deletes it from the library at the original source. So you can think about, I've got 200 documents in a library. I select them all and say, move it to this other site, because that's where it belongs. Whether you're doing records, you've
Yeah.
worked on them over here and now you're moving them over there. You're doing kind of reorging your sites or whatever, and you do that. Well, it's doing a mass delete in the
Mm-hmm.
background, and then we'll send out notifications. So,
Yeah.
it's one of those, just like you're talking about the OneNote, it's unintended. I'm actually doing what I'm supposed to, in that I'm moving files and stuff. I'm not deleting them,
Yeah.
but it's sending out a notification. So
Yeah.
I think it's just another one of those things we need to be aware of, that this is a great functionality, but we could get those alerts that are kind of false flags.
Yeah, so I think that good point, Joanne, and sharing your experience there, and I think that's actually more harkening back to the previous discussion about here's a notification for the admin. What I see this message is at the user level,
Yeah.
and particularly it can probably happen more often with the sync clients, because when you go into the web browser, you're going to get more feedback. Whereas when you're in the Windows Explorer and you've synchronized to a document library and oops, I deleted a whole folder, then you're not going to see any kind of feedback. It's just going to happen, and then the flow and effect of that is there's a bunch of files that are deleted. I think,
and I think it's also important to remember, we talked about this known folder move, which but also we can use the OneDrive sync client for SharePoint sites, right?
Yep.
And so we've got it on our file, and people just go through and they hit a delete button because, I don't need those files. And, if they're lost in their files, meaning, you're just going and you hit delete, just like you said, you could have deleted thousands of documents that affect a lot of people, not just you. And so this is a great, the OneDrive sync client prompting you, hey, you just deleted a lot of files. Did you mean to do that?
Are you sure about that?
Yeah. And so I think it's great to, catch it on many levels, on a couple levels. Personally, I didn't mean to do that. No. And then, organizationally getting alerts to say, this person deleted, thousands of files. So.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. Yep, and it's I'm going to be interested to see how they bring that through to, because it's about the sync client. Of course, you'll get that notification in the web browser, but how they bring that through, what does that look like in the sync client, and does that pop up from OneDrive as an integration into Windows?
I think that's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to pop up as a Windows notification.
Well, we'll finish off with this one, which I think is a good start. I know we're a few minutes over. Planner notifications for Teams. Now, within a Microsoft team, you can have plans. You can have multiple plans. We've had that for a while. Planner started its life within Outlook groups. And you would create a plan, and then everything would be tied if you were going to have a conversation about it, if you wanted to let people know that they had a task assigned to them. It's all, its origins are with email alerts and email conversations. But as teams or as groups of people are beginning to work inside Microsoft Teams more and less about using Outlook as their team collaboration tool, then they want to have messages and notifications within Teams to say, hey, there's a task that's assigned to you, aside from it popping up in the Planner app if you're using the mobile app. This is one of the first notifications with that integration. So when you have a task assigned to you, there is something in the background called a planner bot. Yeah, and as I read it, that is its only function at the moment, is to let you know, to send a message off into your chat-based or your activity, and let you know that there's a task there for you. It also drops a message into the channel of that team where that plan is, as something of accountability. Hey, there's a task that's been assigned to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know that I like that part because it
Yeah.
gets the channel kind of messy.
Could be quite
But
busy, hey? Because
yeah,
when you add a new tab, and then it says, "Do you want to post this to the channel?" Which is a good practice. You want to explain to people why you've added this tab rather than it's just there.
right.
But you've seen the size of the message, and I think, and we haven't seen it yet, but I think that the size of the message for an assigned task in Planner is probably going to take up a similar amount of screen real estate.
Right.
Busy planner board comes up. Let's put it out there. We're in a really large project team. Now, this is another good reason why you want to put your plans in certain channels and focus
Yeah,
it.
that's right.
Your little your more focused groups that are getting work done. But a good start. And look, I'm hoping that this again is just a first integration, because the one I'm really interested in with Planner and Teams is when I have a conversation on a task card. At the moment, any conversations will go into Outlook. I've sent an update. I've said this is what's happened on the task. I've got some blockers. Blah blah blah. Hit enter. That conversation is all in Outlook. I want to see that happen within Teams in some nifty fashion, so that I can keep up.
So have
with that
a
conversation.
like a reply to the task that's been posted.
Yep. So
in
the
the
conversation
channel?
becomes integrated
Yeah.
between your Teams conversation experience, and you don't necessarily have to go to the card.
Well, that's exactly what I was about to say. You've got your task. I personally would rather, we've been told, and Teams is this, new desktop kind of, it's our hub for getting work done. Well, I would rather not go to Planner. In that, if I've got a task and I just want to mention somebody and say, hey, can we blah blah, I'm waiting on so and so. I'd rather just do it right there in the channel. Why post a task in the channel if you don't? If I can not reply to it in a thread and it get updated in plan and the plan. I think that is so logical. It's one of those. I think we're going to hear about that, because if I'm getting all these tasks posted in the channel, people are going to like, I'm replying to it, and the project manager says, where is your update? Well, it's in Teams. No, you have to put it in the plan. Why? Why is it? It's one of those, we hear this all the time. People say, yes, that's great functionality, but blah, 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 right? Well, we're on this evergreen model of development with Microsoft now in Office 365. We're not waiting 3 years for stuff to come out. And so we've got this new functionality, and it's not complete, right? It's not, it's like, we need a couple more things to make it. And so just be aware, users, where do you update your task? And how do you, in your project, how are you supposed to update your task? Are you supposed to do it in Teams? Okay, then everybody do it in Teams, right? Reply to the message in the channel, and we'll use that as our source of truth. Is it in the plan? Okay, then it needs to be there. So
Yep. And there's plenty of other ideas of thoughts of how that could be integrated. I for one, I think that being the hub of teamwork, it is bringing applications and services together. So we should be quite comfortable with going to a team, having a conversation about a task. But and I've seen this in good practice in a few projects too, where the project meeting is run by having the board open, and people are adding comments and tasks and things as you go. And you're supposed, you should go there and update it as you go. Watch the space, right? So
agreed.
And parting thought there is, Teams being the hub of teamwork for people, there must be a hub of teamwork for Microsoft to bring all these different product groups together to get integration going. So it's two-sided.
Yep.
We are well over. Sorry about that online audience, but you are still trucking on with your comments.
That's
So
right.
thanks
Thank
to
you,
everyone
everyone.
that did pitch in, tune in, pass comments. You've added value because that conversation is sitting there with the video. And we'll catch you again next week. I know there was one other thing I wanted to say, but look, we're well over time. Go check it out yourself anyway. It actually feels like it's quite an important one that will probably end up being a message in the message center. The classic lists and libraries in SharePoint are going to be flicked over to modern in a short while automatically. There'll be probably a way of slowing that down if you need to.
Yeah, well, we've got several weeks, so maybe we can, maybe this week won't be so busy, and we can do it next week on the next week's show.
Yeah, let's do a deep dive.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks again, everyone. We'll catch you again next week. Bye for now.
Bye.